Thanks everybody for joining. I will go ahead and turn it over to our spotlight speaker, Mary Ann Pfeiffer.
Thanks, Lauren. Hey, everyone. Some of you know me already. For those of you that don't, I'm Mary Ann Pfeiffer. I am the principal and founder of One Way Degrees Digital Marketing. Some of my team are here today. I am a marketing dinosaur. I've been doing this since the late 90s and been doing this on our own as 108 Degrees since the early aughts. So I'm a MailChimp Pro partner. It means that I do a lot of MailChimp and that I have the highest level of certification that they offer. So we do a lot of email. We're an email-centric agency. The way we approach marketing is that we understand that email is the main channel that we can depend on the most with the target audiences our clients are trying to reach. So we leverage email alongside branding and content development and SMS and social and advertising in order to build a more cohesive marketing message that you can put out to your customers and prospects. I'm also a marketing speaker, which is why I do things like this. And one of my favorite parts of this is being able to answer questions for some of our customers, prospects, people who are just in marketing, who do other parts of marketing and want to know how to fit what we do into what they do. And that's what we're going to do today. So we have some questions. So I'll let Lauren kind of lead us off and get us into the questions.
Thank you. Let me pull everybody up here. Okay, Mary Ann, you are pinned. Will, I'm going to pin you. Okay, there we go. Will submitted a question, and his question was, how can brands best begin to leverage their first-party data given the demise of third-party cookies? Is that accurate, Will?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's something that I'm speaking a lot about to agencies and brands. I think obviously it's not new. It's nothing new that third parties are going away. Obviously, there are a lot of delays from Google in them rolling it out. But I think a lot of brands and agencies are sort of jostling for position on how to sort of utilize first party data in order to sort of negate any sort of, I guess, limitations that come with the new
Right.
with the new rules.
Yeah, so I'm going to rewind a little bit because not everybody knows first party, second party, third party data. So let me just kind of rewind a bit and define that. So first party data is data that you collect yourself. So as the business owner, as the marketing person, as the CMO, whatever data you are collecting within your own system is first party data. It's data that you own for whatever reason, however you have collected it about your customers or prospects. Second party data is data that comes from a trusted source. So say, for example, you are a part of a live event with a few other companies. And so you sort of all agree, okay, everybody who registers is all of our contacts and we share that data. You're not paying for the data. You have sort of a general interest together. Could be a partnership organization, something like that. And then third party data is the really dirty data, okay? And the way I like to refer to it to most people is, you know how when you look for something in Google and then all of a sudden you go to another site and you get ads in Amazon for the thing you were Googling and you're kind of creeped out by it? That's third party data in action. And the reality is that it does creep people out. I mean, most people are uncomfortable with the idea of that data being shared. And eventually, governments and technology organizations have come to recognize that, yeah, it's kind of creepy and probably a little bit ethically questionable. So in some countries, in some areas, third-party data is absolutely not usable at all. Generally, what we're seeing is just sort of an ethical move away from third-party data use because consumers find it creepy and nobody wants their brand to be perceived as creepy. Well, maybe some brands don't mind, but most brands don't want to be perceived as creepy. So that third-party data was collected with cookies, and how it would work is you would search for something, Google would provide you with the result and add a cookie to your identity, and then that cookie would follow you to other sites. So if we don't have that anymore, how do you, as the advertiser, as the marketer, how do you use other data? And in this case, Will's asking about first party data, your own, how can you start to leverage that? So I'm going to rewind a couple of decades in my career to before we had real usable cookies. Okay. And way back in the old timey days, we used to just ask people stuff, right? And that's where we're going back to, right? So somebody comes to visit your website and they want to get a piece of information, and you start with collecting their email address and giving them some information. We call those lead magnets, right? As they progress with your brand, you can then use that email address to try to get a little bit more information out of them. And I really believe that being transparent and being genuine with people is critical here, right? If you tell them, hey, we want you to have a better user experience, we don't want to send you information you wouldn't be interested in. So maybe give them a survey or a poll that says, are you interested in email marketing or SMS or both, right? And if they check off both, if they're really interested, and especially I work a lot in the B2B space, people are interested, they're going to say they're interested because these are need to have purchases, not nice to have purchases. And so they are really going to volunteer information to keep things more relevant. Even in the consumer space, you can do this because you can do it with a little bit of incentive. There's nothing wrong with the use of a loyalty program. There's nothing wrong with the use of a coupon or a discount to say, hey, fill out this survey and we'll send you 10% off your next purchase or free shipping or whatever incentive works for your audience, right? But basically leverage the direct relationship you have with your prospect to try to gather more data voluntarily. In the slides that we follow up from this, I'll send some websites that have some great articles and information on this that you can do a little bit more digging on. It's really about asking questions and incentivizing answers, right? And different spaces will react differently. But even if you're a nonprofit, maybe you have a few different charity options when people give. Ask them questions about what they care about supporting, and people are likely to give you answers. You're not going to get every answer from every person all the time. It requires patience. But in the end, between the data that they volunteer to you and then the data you're able to collect on your website, because again, you can still use cookies on your website to collect their traffic data, to collect, what products they're interested in, use those, leverage those. If you see that they're hitting a particular category all the time, now that's where you dig in deep, and that's where you offer a coupon to get a little bit more specific into that category and get that much more information out of them. Does that help well? Does that help to give a little baseline for some people?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was really good.
All right, then. Thanks, Will.
Well, the next question comes from Brittany, and Brittany asked, do you recommend Facebook or Google ads? Hey, Brittany.
Hey, Brittany, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So you're looking at Facebook and Google and you're trying to figure out which one's the better fit?
Yeah. So I've had my business for about 10 years and we've always advertised on Facebook and Google. And obviously everybody who's in this industry knows, the downfall of the iOS 14 and stuff like that and our returns. So sometimes I feel like I get a better return on Google than I do Facebook, but I feel like I can't scale as much on Google as we could Facebook. So right now, during this economy and some changes in our company, I haven't advertised since March, and I want to slowly start putting my feet back in it because obviously I want to make SMS and email marketing more of my bread and butter than the unreliable social media marketing. But I do kind of want to see what people think is the best, or, kind of like what's the sweet spot.
Right. That's a great question. And it's one I hear a lot from different brands about different industries. At the end of the day, it's not about which platform, it's about what the use case is. So Facebook is typically used, and most social media is used for brand awareness, right? Because what you can do with Facebook in terms of demographic targeting is that you can find, men between the ages of 24 and 36 who are interested in mountain bikes, who also like energy drinks, right? Like you can find a lot of data like that in Facebook. You can't do that in Google. Okay. But what that does is it allows you to take the ideal persona of who you're trying to target and target them. But we don't tend to see a lot of conversions on Facebook or Instagram, right? Meta is great for making people aware that your brand exists. But as you get to those lower funnel actions of checkout, you're not going to see as much of that. And that's just by nature of the type of platform it is and the interaction. People don't go to Facebook to look for things to shop for. They go to Facebook to connect with their friends. And then sometimes they'll see a video that interests them or an ad or something like that. They go, oh, that's really interesting, right? But they're not in a shopping mindset. People who are using search, like today in New Hampshire, it's 87 degrees. There are a lot of people looking up HVAC that have not been looking for an HVAC for a solid 6 to 8 months. Okay.
Right.
And they're interested today because it's hot and they want to get it installed this summer because they're
87
not.
degrees is not hot.
It is when your average annual temperature is 50. So
No, I know. In Texas,
But-
that's not hot. That's
no,
cold.
it's not hot in Texas at all. But the idea is that when I'm at search, I'm looking to buy something now, or at least I'm digging into research to buy now. So where I am, if you think of that marketing funnel and like the brand awareness phase and consideration, right? At the point of Google search, I'm kind of ready to buy, right? So if I think about your brand and you tend to target like moms who are shopping for clothes for their kids. So
Uh-huh.
on Facebook, they're busy with school stuff and they're looking at end of school year activities and they're going to the Facebook page to find that. And then they see your ad and go, oh, cool stuff, right? But they're not thinking, I need to buy something right now. Okay. But maybe you have a particular theme. Maybe it's flowers or sparkles or whatever, right? When they're looking to buy children's clothes, if they remember your brand and you show up in search results, that's when you're going to get the conversion. So the hard part in choosing which one is it's really not a choice of which one. It's a matter of what stage of the cycle someone is in, whether they're going to convert. The conversion you want on Facebook is you want somebody to recognize your brand, maybe go and like your Facebook page, maybe subscribe to SMS or email for a discount. They'll be willing to do that. They're probably not going to buy. Okay. So I wouldn't try to sell them on Facebook. The conversion I'd look for on Facebook or Instagram is a follow, a like, or a subscription to email or SMS. Okay. The conversion I'd look for on Google is to shop. Because
Okay.
at that point, they're real. And then again, make sure if you're advertising on Google, advertise your own brand name, right? A lot of people, they think about the general categories their Google should be in, and they don't do their own brand campaign. Advertise your own name. You certainly don't want your competitors buying your name as an advertising.
Mine do.
Right?
Mine do.
Okay.
Like my Google rep would tell me all the time how much and what competitors were bidding against my name.
Yes. So you definitely want to have, your own brand campaign that keeps you at the top of the list. Okay. And the other thing to think about if you're using Google Ads is also think a little bit about SEO, right? And having content on your site that is, search optimized so that you don't have to always outbid your competitors for your name. Maybe you can get a little organic content to show there as well, which will, it's SEO is a long game. You're not going to suddenly show up in search results. It takes time. But once you're there, if you can stay there, it means that if you don't show up in every search result because you've run out of money in that campaign, at least you're still showing up on page one because your organic information will show up there. Okay. Any follow-up? Any other questions on that?
So Google's where it's at.
Well, if you want the dollars, Google's where it's at. But if you want to build the awareness, Facebook, Instagram is where to go. And what you should do is you should do both together, right? I would actually scale because if you think about the marketing funnel, not everybody, you're only so many people are at the purchase point. So you're really limiting your audience if you only go for the people at the bottom of the funnel. You want to keep people moving through the funnel to grow your list and grow that awareness. That's what you use Facebook and Instagram for. But scale your budget accordingly, right? Understand how much brand awareness you really need and put that budget together and then look at how much conversion
Right.
budget you want and put that into Google.
Perfect. I like that.
Okay. All
Thank
right. Great. Glad it helps. All right, Lauren, what's up next?
I don't believe that Julie is on, but we'll answer her question anyway. So she'll get the recording. She asked a question in terms of a mailing list. How important are names versus just email addresses?
Right. Okay. So that is a question of what we call friction versus personalization. Friction in marketing is, somebody comes to a form and you have them fill out a form. And you know that the more questions you ask, the less they're going to want to fill out, and more likely that you're going to lose them completely because they don't want to fill anything out at all, right? So that's friction. So you have to weigh that against how much information you collect, which is first-party data, which is personalization. Now, personalization in email marketing is really, really important. Okay. So if I just have your email address and I send something to Lauren at 108 Degrees, you'll get it, but you might not notice it because it's not coming to you personally. So it's always better if I can say, hey, Lauren, at the top of the email, or even in the subject line, include your first name to get you to pay attention. So there's a lot of stats out there, and personalization today is where it's all at, right? So there's something like, I think Mailmoto said 57% of marketers, they say there's improved engagement when they use email personalization, Campaign Monitor, Active Trial. There's a whole bunch of these guys that say, if you use personalization, we have marked results improvement when you're using people's first name, last name, other personalized data. And we also have marked drops when you're not using personalization. So the more information you can get, especially if you have an online store and you're targeting previous shoppers, you know their first name, or at least their first initial, you know their last name, you probably know where they live if you shipped them something. Use that, leverage that in your campaigns so that you're telling that customer, hey, I know you and I know what you're interested in. And I think I have something you might like. People pay attention to personalization. So then we worry about the friction, right? Well, if I ask them all these questions, what if they don't fill out the form? Okay. So I did a little research on this, not myself. I did research on people that are doing research on this. And I actually found a couple of different studies, one from HubSpot and one from Crazy Egg. And they both said that basically HubSpot said that, looking at forms, how many fields will people fill out? And the irony is that according to that study, people will fill out 3 or 5. For some reason, 4, they saw a drop. Don't know why, but there was no significant difference from sort of 1 to 3. So asking people for their first name, because we know it helps with personalization, is definitely worth it. And maybe even asking an additional qualifying question besides that, whether you ask their last name or something that they're interested in, get 3 questions on there. They'll answer 3 things. They will fill out 3 fields. So use that, leverage that so you can pull more data, more first party data into your system, right? So that you can use that for personalization and yield better results from your email marketing. In the slides that follow up from this presentation, I will link to those different articles that have those different studies so you can read more about it. But essentially, conversion rates are going to be higher. So absolutely get that name if you can, get that first name. If it's a B2B, try to get that company name because you can target based on the company as well.
Awesome. I think we have a few more minutes left, and I think I have one more question if you can take
Sure.
a breath. You're
Yeah.
up. What is one key tip you would give to entrepreneurs who would want to start producing video content featuring themselves, particularly in front of the camera for scripts like interviews, explainer videos, etc.?
Yeah. Okay. So first thing I'm going to say is most entrepreneurs, most business owners really, really hate the idea of putting themselves on video. Most of us are so busy running our businesses that the idea of having to now suddenly be the face of the business and be out on video is like, "Ugh, another thing, another thing. I don't need another thing." But the reality in doing business today is that the leadership in a company, you are the brand. So, it doesn't have to just be one person. It can be multiple people. But if you are part of the voice of the company in email, you are part of the voice of the company brand, and you should be seen in video. But video doesn't have to be intimidating. Video doesn't have to be super high-end and formal. My first piece of advice is be casual. Okay. Do what you're good at. Don't get a big production studio and a makeup artist and fancy clothes and lots of lights and suddenly do something you've never done before. It'll be an awful experience for you and you'll probably hate the results. Okay. Just start easy. Start with a Zoom, start with, FaceTime on your phone, and just record something that you're comfortable talking about in a comfortable setting. So I always suggest just answer some questions like what we're doing here today, the questions that we're being asked. This is stuff I get asked all the time by my clients. So for me, it's a very natural environment to be standing in my office at my Zoom screen, answering these questions because it's what I do all day long. So find a thing that's comfortable for you. It can be your living room. It can be your local park. Have a friend if you want help you and be the person asking the questions that you get all the time from your customers or from your prospects and just answer them. And don't worry about what it's going to look like or what it's going to sound like. Just do it a few times. Okay. Answer questions that are common. Don't go for like the most obscure question you've ever been asked. That's the hardest thing you'll have to know. Go for simple because basically most of your prospects, most of your clients are going to, 80% of them are going to ask the same question. Answer those first. Okay. Make it easy for them. And I say, don't critique yourself. Don't even look at the first video. Okay. Send it to somebody you trust, a friend, a spouse, a colleague, somebody in your company. Kelly Dynoff's here today. And Kelly's like I send stuff to her. I'm like, Kelly, I can't tell if this is any good. Tell me if I sound like a moron, right? And I let her be the judge because it's really hard to have an independent perspective on yourself. It's really hard to know if you really sound right. Have somebody you trust watch it, and they'll tell you. Somebody who, like Kelly and I've worked together for a couple of decades now. So if I sound stupid, she's not going to let me put it out there. Okay. She's my brand guardian. She's the one making sure that I sound right to represent our company. So if it sounds stupid, she won't let it fly, but if it sounds good, she'll be like, hey, this is good. Cut that part out. We're going to have Nicole edit this, that, or the other thing, and this is good to go. And I have that person who can be that filter for me that I trust. So find that person who can be that filter so you don't have to critique yourself. I guarantee you'll hate everything you create. Okay. It's just natural. It's uncomfortable for a lot of us. That's okay. Your job is leading your company. Creating video that helps to promote your brand and helps to sell your services or products, that is your responsibility if you're a business leader. And so, try to embrace it as part of the job of being, part of business development or sales for your organization. Embrace that, find someone you trust to help you, and keep it simple at first. The better you get at it, the more you can spend money and make yourself fancy and get your makeup artist and get your hair done and go for that fancy studio. When you're ready for it, you'll know, and you can be there.
Awesome. We have a couple minutes. We have a live question. Are you ready?
Go for it.
Harry, thanks so much for submitting this. The question is, what industries benefit the most from utilizing MailChimp's advanced segmentation, and what use cases align with MailChimp's current capabilities do you think deliver the most value? Example would be travel, hospitality, fashion, retail, etc. Harry, did I answer that or did I butcher it? Okay. Okay.
Hey, Harry, thanks for joining us. Okay, so we are not industry specific ourselves here. Over a couple of decades, I've worked in a lot of different industries. Majority of the work we do today at 108 Degrees is B2B, nonprofit, and then high household income is another one. So we work with a lot of clients who, even though they're targeting consumers, they have high household income buyers. And so they tend to buy a little bit more like a B2B buyer with a little special touch. So those are the industries I'm most comfortable with. But in general, there is not a market out there that cannot benefit from segmentation. Okay. If you could send an individual email to each and every prospect, customized on all the activity they've had on your site and all the interactions they've had with you via email and SMS and everything else that talks directly to them, they're going to love it and they're going to respond to it. But if you have a list of 600,000 prospects, it's not really reasonable to do that. It's very slow and very tedious. So segmentation allows you to break chunks off into smaller groups based on whatever criteria you want. So MailChimp you can get activity within your email, activity within your SMS. You can get, if you have an online store, if they've purchased or not, if your store is connected to MailChimp, but you can also pull in data from your CRM. So a lot of times in the B2B market, we don't have an e-commerce store because people aren't buying, $50,000 worth of manufacturing equipment from an online store, right? But we can pull data from the CRM that says, what had they bought before and what product lines were they interested in and what are their use cases and all of that. And that's something that you can use segmentation for in order to create a more targeted message. There isn't any one industry that's going to benefit more than the other. They're all going to benefit. It really just depends on how much data you have that you can use for that segmentation. So, and the advanced segmentation in MailChimp is great because you can do ands and ors, right? So I can say this and this and this, or this and this and that. And that level of segmentation helps you really refine things to find the smallest targeted group as you can. And when you do that, right, you can make your offer really targeted, you can make your context really targeted, and something that's more meaningful for your subscriber. So I think that was probably a little bit vague, but hopefully it helped.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the session as well.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. What questions are you getting on segmentation? Is it that people are asking you something specific or?
No, I suppose this is just a really interesting. So just for some context, everyone. So Will and myself work for MailChimp. I think that was probably known already, but so I think at the moment, you'll know MailChimp's gone through this kind of evolution. We're now very much kind of targeting mid-market as opposed to micro businesses and small businesses, although everyone on the call, we still look after, and that's still our kind of bread and butter of the small businesses. But we're kind of branching out. We're trying to understand where MailChimp is most effective, and then how we can be most effective with delivering to those specific segments. So clearly, if you're working with B2B and kind of non-profits, we get loads of non-profits through all day long. The amount of NHS and healthcare clients that we get through is quite astounding. But, you know, we're quite a lean team. So in order to target, you know, travel, hospitality, retail, event companies that have lots of customers that will be higher value, as opposed to e-commerce, where maybe it's a bit more competitive with the Klaviyo's and the .digitals in the space. Yeah, it's really interesting just to understand where the tip of the spear would be.
Yeah, so I would say when you're looking mid-market, right, typically what you're working with, that's really like our target customer too, because it's a small comms team, right? It's one person in a big comms department, or it's 3 people in the company and emails one thing that they each do, right? So understanding that they have data from other places that they can reach, but they don't have a lot of time to dig in. Where I'd use segmentation, first place I'd use it is in automation. So I would, you know, say, because when you have a small comms team, automation is like the most valuable thing that they can have, because it's the gift that keeps on giving. You set it up once and it just keeps delivering to people. But if you can take segmentation, if you can take data from their CRM, past behavioral activity, pull that into MailChimp, slap tags on some of that stuff, you can then use automation to target, you know, you're still sending automated email, but targeted automated email. So it's not just a general welcome series. It's a welcome series based on, oh, you're in the travel industry. Okay, so you traveled to Mexico and the Caribbean. So you're going to get a welcome series that's very focused on islands and palm trees and beautiful beaches, versus somebody who targeted, you know, went to the mountains and the Grand Canyon. And so you're going to send them national parks and things like that. So it's still automation. And a lot of times it's kind of the same information, because a welcome series is still a welcome series, but what pictures you show them and what links you send them to and what offers you put in front of them can be different based on some of those tags. So that's where I'd hit first in some industries, because you get big bang for the buck with a small team and being able to set up something once and then just run with it.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
All right, I think we're over time. So anything else?
That's it for now.
Okay,
Everybody
great.
knows where to find us. So if you have any more questions that come up, always here.
Please send them in. Our next session is in June. Do you know the date off the top of your head?
18th.
June 18th. Yes. So please feel free to register, send your friends, send their questions. You know, we love to answer questions live. And, you know, if you can attend, that's great, because we're happy to answer the questions as they come in. But if you attended today, you'll get a follow-up on this meeting very quickly. We'll send you some recap slides as well that have links to different resources that we recommend that you dig into for these different questions. And otherwise, you know where to find us. So thanks for coming, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Bye.